If you've spent a significant portion of your life somewhere in and around the waters of the South Puget Sound, this message is for you. And more specifically, it's for people that I grew up with. You know, anywhere between the classes of, let's call it, 85 and 95. If you're in this group, you're probably Generation X, unless I did my math wrong. But the reason I'm calling on all of you is for one very specific reason. Why is nobody talking anymore? And why is Generation X not even a part of the conversation? In fact, we're considered the silent generation? I'm curious. And just in case nobody can recognize me because of the disguise, my new pet mustache, this is David Easley. Went to Peninsula High School and Bellarmine High School, class of 1992, grew up in Gig Harbor. Oh, and it's also for all those parents who had their doors open and let us crazy teenagers run around and just have a great time. This one's for you. Okay, for just a second, I want everybody to just kind of sit back for a second and think about where we grew up, where we've lived for the majority of our long lives. Maybe some of you don't live in the Puget Sound area or in Gig Harbor any longer, but just think about what it was that we got to experience. I don't think there's a better place in the country, a more beautiful place, a more diverse place. I mean, maybe Gig Harbor was a little on the white side. By the way, where is Mark Wilkerson? Has anybody talked to him in years? I grew up in Purdy, which some back in the day used to say, oh, that's not Gig Harbor. Well, you're right. It's not Gig Harbor. It's Purdy. It's way better. We have a bridge, we had a store, and I was right down the street from school. There still was a little bit of that feeling like, oh, the Gig Harbor kids and the Peninsula kids were a little rougher, you know, from the lower key peninsula. We heard all this stuff. But other than that, we didn't really have the same problems that it looks like we have today. And why we have those problems today is really something that is intriguing me beyond my brain's ability to even conceptualize what's going on. Now, if you know me, you probably know that I'm a talker. I always have been, I always will be. It's how I got where I'm at in the world. That's it. I didn't get good grades. In fact, I didn't really pay attention in school at all. Since my mom was an alcoholic and my dad was nowhere to be found, I was literally trying to make as many friends as I could, always. Whether it be with teachers, strangers, friends my age, it didn't matter. I was always looking for a conversation. Couple that with my overwhelming need to always understand how everything works, take it apart, figure it out, look at it until I understand it. That's how I got to do the things I did, work in the fields that I did, obtain a vice president corporate title with Citigroup and Deutsche Bank, and ring the opening bell to the New York Stock Exchange. I didn't get there because I got a master's degree in finance. I got to do a lot of things that maybe I wouldn't have ever tried, because I was always willing just to try anything once. Well, not anything, if you know what I mean. I don't know where I got that confidence. Maybe I got that confidence because my parents told me I was going to be a failure my entire life. From day one. Ingrained it in my head. Why do people do that? Why do people discourage others to not succeed? Ridicule them for trying? I've just never worried about being ridiculed. I mean, I was ridiculed. I stuttered my entire existence until probably I was 25 years old. Really bad until about the 5th, 6th grade. But anybody who knows me knows I stutter. My biggest fear in the world was speaking in front of an audience. Well, in order to keep going in life, you have to take more risk and swallow your fears to get to that point. I don't feel like we're on that path today. Here's the basic concept. The things that I have learned, the information that I have come across, the study that I've done and the time I have spent focusing on what's going on, how it affects the markets, how everything affects the markets. Real estate, stock market, bond market, commodities market, you name it. Everything happening around us affects that. Some of you know I went to Los Angeles in '93 to try to break into the movie business and got shaken right out of town. Things happened down there that, well, there'll be stories to tell about that too. But I wrote a screenplay for a movie a couple years back, set right on the Puget Sound, Henderson Bay, Fox Island, Narrows. It's a great story. It's an adventure. Some of you are kind of indirectly a part of that story because we all were there during the time period at which I'm drawing from the information. Well, I turned that movie into a TV series, and I'm working on getting financing and getting that production underway. Let's get that thing off the ground, because I want to hear stories from you. I want to communicate with you guys via the broadcast. Hear some of the stories from your perspective. Reminisce about the crazy stuff that happened in the South Puget Sound and Gig Harbor in the late 80s and early 90s. We got a lot of fun stories. It's kind of science fiction / Fast Times at Ridgemont High meets Stranger Things in a missile silo. Anybody who supports this or wants to get involved in that, you're going to have a place to work on the show. You can be in the show. I don't want to use Hollywood. I don't want to use production studios. I don't want to use the slimes from down south. I want to make this on our own. Sort of on our own. We'll use some connections I made, but it'll be fun. And last but not least, honoring my grandfather who taught me how to grow apples in his Yakima apple orchard. I'm going to put 5,000 to 10,000 black truffle and white truffle trees inoculated by me in the ground somewhere in western Washington. Place to be determined. The goal of that property is to not only be a $250 million a year plus revenue generating property, but to double as the nation's largest dog rescue, kind of a kid rescue, and a place where we can create a bunch of jobs and teach the skills that people need to have. Learning how to fish, learning how to hunt, the kind of stuff Joe Jarzenka did all the time and died doing. When you get taken out in life, when you get let down, when you get betrayed, when you get screwed over, you can respond in a couple different ways. One, you can turn around, tuck your tail, become the victim, and just let yourself go to hell. Or you can stand up, and you can stand up for other people. You can say what's wrong. You could call out the BS when there's too much of it. Speaking your mind and your beliefs for the first time in my life have become non-existent. Why is that? I think I know. I'm going to expose it as best I can. I learned something new in the Donald Trump trial. Stormy Daniels, the porn star, it's called sell it or tell it. I always like to say that there's no crime that you can't accept an apology for. If a person ends up growing enough to figure out that their ego caused them to do something that maybe they're not proud of, the only way in my mind you can regain vindication in a scenario like that is to honestly look inside, say you're sorry, accept your responsibility, accept your behavior and acknowledge it. My dad was given that opportunity way back in 2007 or 8. He didn't accept it. You know what he did? He went scorched earth. He went full narcissist, stole even more money, ruined even more people, and stuck to his guns. And I think will never accept the responsibility for the lives that he tore apart. And that's a shame, because he's going to die a lonely, old, bitter person, just like my mom did. I don't want to see anybody do that. Join the show. This will all make more sense, but we got to start talking. We got to connect, and we have to start talking what logic looks like and sounds like. We're all on the same team. We just don't know it yet.